So for today's day, I'm gonna do my best to answer the top 5 interview questions with Deloitte, and because I'm running a bit short on time, today I also prepared a little cheat sheet which I'm going to use throughout this video, and I also, of course, invite you to use your own cheat sheets for your own interviews too. Number one most asked question in job interviews with Deloitte and with most companies these days is your elevator pitch. That tell me about yourself. Okay, now how do we go about answering this question? I believe importantly here, you must understand that this question is very much equivalent to other questions such as what makes you unique for this role? What's your strength here? What's that one thing that sets you apart from other candidates? Walk me through your resume. Okay, this is also an equivalent question. And the reason why these equivalent questions are important is because they should trigger ideas for you to give your best answers. In my experience, there are very few people who can give purely motivational answers, but most people will do very well if they detect what's their strength and take it from there. For example, your strength could be something on the lines of making some complex analysis, some, I don't know, even predictive analytics if you want. But so long you know what you're good at and what sells best, of course, for the role that you're applying for, I believe that will help you in a significant way to do well with your elevator pitch. Second most commonly asked question interviewing with Deloitte is why this company, why Deloitte? The idea here, the best answers are also the answers who give the best reasons you want to join the team there. And an interesting idea for you would be you're going there because of the team, because, I don't know, John recommended you and John is already working for Deloitte and you've previously worked with John on various projects which went quite well. This would be one example. Or some of the more peculiar examples I've heard in my experience would be answers to why Deloitte would be, well, I'm not sure I want to work at Deloitte as of right now. I'm still learning about the role. I'm still learning on whether I'm the best fit for this role. Okay, this was answer for, I believe, in a Microsoft interview. But it was well received because, you know, it's a genuine one. So if you have this genuine question that you're not sure if you want to join Deloitte, why not also go this way? But why Deloitte? So you must find a great motivation from this. And also another great place to look for motivation for why Deloitte is also to look at their culture, to take some keywords from there, see what resonates also from your CV, what's the main highlights, and eventually find such reasons. And by the way, you can combine them. You can find 1, 2, 3, or 5 if you want. Okay, and by the way, you can also use a cheat sheet to have them nearby during the interview so you won't forget them as well. Okay, now let's get to the more interesting and more specific questions here, the behavioral part. Tell me about the challenge you faced in your professional career. Before giving you a great example, I would like to give you first a bad example which I found online, and I would like to use this as a starting point. So a bad example would sound something on the lines of, the biggest challenge I have faced in my career is working part-time and continuing with my university education. It became even more complex in my senior-most years owing to the increased school load. I had to work on my time management skills and even come up with a calendar to show her when I was supposed to work and be in school. I managed to take control and make the process less painful. So what's wrong with this answer? First of all, it's vague, okay? There's nothing really specific. You could argue, yeah, but they're time management skills. Yes, but how do you prove those time management skills? You just prove them by working part-time during university. That's not a specific example by any means. It's very general and vague. This is a behavioral question, okay? Tell me about the time when you faced a challenge in your professional career, okay? So you must find, in other words, a specific project or specific initiative where you had a challenge here. In my opinion, it doesn't sell you on anything as a candidate. I mean, yes, you could say it's time management skills, but in my way, it's a very weak way to sell yourself. And I'll demo another example in a moment. Also, it's slightly argumentative for a recent graduate. At least this is my opinion. And problem number four with this question is it has no structure. I know one thing or two about behavioral interviews, and the best candidates who prepare for this interview also prepare their answers in a STAR format, okay? Situation, task, action, and result. So by giving a structure, you're speaking in your interviewer's language, because interviewers are used to hearing answers in this pre-structured format, and therefore you'll increase your chances to make a better impression, at least, if not to also be better understood, and eventually significantly increase your chances to get a job because of that. Now, here's another example for the question of tell me about the time when you faced a challenge in your career. While working as an analyst at Company X in 2018, I had 3 weeks to deliver an important report so we could prepare for an audit due in 6 weeks. This is a complex task and just one of the many I had been assigned by my manager. During the assignment, I hurried and made some wrong assumptions related to transfer pricing, which I had noticed right when I was presenting this to my boss, and he wasn't too happy about this. The deadline had to be extended by 2 weeks, which was now just 1 week away from a company-wide audit. This is when I learned the importance of prioritization. Yes, I had plenty of tasks to do for my boss and many other colleagues to help. However, there was a lot of stake with this report. My job was likely on the line had I failed it. Second learning here was the importance of managing up. Yes, my boss is a very busy person, but instead of presenting this only after 2 weeks, and since this was important, the better approach might have been to have a debrief midway through the project to ensure everything was as expected. In the end, I delivered the report within just 1 week and the audit went well. Okay, and by the way, here are a couple of similar questions to tell me about a challenge you faced. Dive deep into an initiative you led, okay, an interesting initiative if you want. I'm sure it had a challenge. Okay, it's impossible not to have had a challenge. Any great story has a challenge. A time when it demonstrated leadership within a professional context related to your subject matter expertise here. What's your best story? Your best story almost always will contain a challenge. So notice here how understanding why they ask you the question in the first place will put you in a significantly better spot to give your best answer. Okay, if you know how to listen to the question. And just quickly, question number 4, most asked, is a time when you didn't get along with someone. Similar questions, a time when your colleague didn't trust you, or a time when you received negative feedback from your manager. So why would someone ask you such a question? They would ask you such a question because they want to test your interpersonal skills. The one keyword you want to keep in mind here when answering questions about interpersonal skills is trust. The moment you project trust, or the moment your colleague trusts you or your boss trusts you, that's when you have a good answer. Okay, and of course you must follow the STAR format that I just demoed in the previous example. Have a specific example, and this will be the main thing here. Number 5 question from my top 5 questions you should prepare an interview with Deloitte would be a time when you failed. And similarly here, your greatest professional regret, okay, or tell me about a recent shortcoming, or what's your worst failure. Okay, so how would you listen to questions such what's your worst failure? I would listen it such as, then what's your best failure story you prepared for me today? Okay, it doesn't have to be the most recent, it doesn't have to be the worst, it has to be the best story, okay? And if you want an example, I believe the example I demoed in the STAR format could also easily be interpreted as a failure, okay? Because if you notice there, I focused on the results section. I'm very much speaking about its learnings. Actually, almost half of that answer focuses on the learnings. Okay, so when someone asks you about the failure, first they want to ensure you have a failure, that is, you prepare for the interview, and second, they want to see your learnings, how you grew from that experience. All right, so these would be my my top 5 questions when going for an interview with Deloitte. And again, the main thing is to literally try to make sense and give specific answers to any question you get asked. Try to use examples, try to use your highlights, try to use your best stories. These are the best candidates who do well. So hopefully you found this information useful, and thank you very much for watching.